Hello, my algebra students. I'm just going to record some lessons for you to learn the information regarding polynomials. We're going to just start with our first lesson with polynomial vocabulary. So when we use these words throughout the lessons, you are familiar with what are the definitions to those words. So the first word we're going to look at is monomial. And a monomial is a real number, could be a variable, or it could be a product of a real number and one or more variables, which are whole number exponents. So again, it could be just a real number. So any number you know, it could be fraction, whole number, just a variable to any degree, or a product, so a multiplication of a real number and one or more variables with, up there, notice it says whole number exponents. It can't be a fractional exponent. They have to be whole number exponents to be a monomial. The degree of a monomial is the sum, which means addition, of the exponents of the variables of that monomial. So it's the sum of them. So let's just look at a couple examples here. So I have a real number and one variable, so 15x to the second. What is my degree of my monomial? Well, the exponent has a degree of 2. So since there is a 2, then my degree is 2. Here we have a real number of a half, this time a product of 2 variables. So notice that again, it's the sum of the exponents. So we're going to add the exponent 5 plus the exponent 2 to get a lovely degree of 7, because 5 plus 2 is 7. The last one has just a real number, so there's no variable to it. However, any number to the power of 0 equals 1. So you can think of it as you want to. If we want to put an exponent here. So x to the 0 power is equivalent to 1, and 1 times 16 still leaves me with 16. So I can say the degree is 0, since there was no variable. Okay, we're going to look at some more vocabulary words here. We're going to start with polynomial. And a polynomial is a monomial, or the sum or difference of 2 or more monomial called terms. So it's 1, so polynomial is just one type, or it's the sum or difference or 2 or more. So the degree of a polynomial is the greatest degree of any term of that polynomial. So this is different than the degree of the monomial from the previous screen. This is just the greatest degree of any term of the polynomial. So we're going to start with 42 here. The degree would be 0, and we kind of just looked at that because there isn't an exponent, so you can think of it as x to the 0 power if you wanted to. But the degree would be 0. And then the name, based on the degree of this type of polynomial, would be a constant. Okay, second one here, there's a variable. The degree of that variable is 1, so this would be a degree of 1. And this, and when I talk about name, I'm talking about like what kind of function it could be. This would be a linear. So go back here, look, 0, this is just known, 42 is known as a constant. This is a linear, like mx plus b. This is a degree of 2, because we have 2 variables. This has a degree of 1, but the definition says the greatest degree, which would be 2. And anything that has a degree of 2 are our favorite quadratics. Again, we have a variable with a power of 2, and then we have 3. Now remember, these are together, so the power of this monomial would be 3, because we have 2 and 1. Even though they're different variables, they're still in it's one monomial, so this would have a degree of 3. And a degree of 3, we haven't studied this a lot, but it's called a cubic. So we have constants that are just numbers, linears that have a degree of 1, quadratics have a degree of 2, cubics have a degree of 3. Now this last one, if we look at it, our highest degree is right here. The monomial with the highest degree is right here, which is 4. This one has 1, this one has 1, this one has 0. So 4 is our highest. Now we run out of fancy names to call this. Okay, so at this point, after cubic, we call this the 4th degree. And then we would just continue with that idea, 5th degree, 6th degree, and so forth. Polynomials, the name is according to the number of terms, not the degree, but the number of terms. So here's our polynomials, our examples. We're going to tell what the number of degrees are and then what's the name. So the first one, notice, is just one term. Okay, and we just learned that, which is a monomial. We look at this one. This one's 2 terms. So here's one term. And remember, terms are split with addition or subtraction. Here's your second term. So that's 2 term. That's called a binomial. Here's our next example. Here's 1 term, 2 terms, and 3 terms. That's called a trinomial. And then our last one here, 1, 2, 3, and 4 terms. Just kind of like the degrees, once they get past 3 or 3 degrees, we just go back and call them polynomials. They don't have any special names. They're just a polynomial. So anything that is more than 3 terms do not have special names. Okay, the last thing we're going to look at is the standard form of polynomials and the form of a polynomial in which the terms are written in decreasing order according to their degree. So you're going to put the highest degree monomial and then the next and next until you get down to the smallest degree. So here's some examples here. So we're going to look at the terms. We've got 5 terms. The highest degree here is that first, or sorry, this term right here. So that's what we're going to write first. So this is, whoops. Ooh. Start that again. It's going to be 6x to the 4th. So that term is done. Look for our next one. We have a degree of 3. So we're going to go negative 3 to the 3rd power. And you take the symbol, the addition or the subtraction, other known as a positive or negative in this case, when we're talking about terms, with that term. Our next term would be squared, it looks like. So that's a negative 3x squared as a term. And then we have the 7x, that's a positive 7x. And then we have the negative 5 at the end. So that's what standard form looks like. So it's the highest term and written in descending order according to their degree. So 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Here's another example. This one's a trinomial. It's got 3. So our first term is the cube. So negative 3x cubed. Our second term here is the square. So plus 6x squared. And then our third term is the 7, and that's a positive 7. Okay, practice again. If you want to pause the video, do it, and then look to make sure you can do it with me. So our biggest one here is a square. So that's negative 8y squared. Next one is the 2y. So that's a positive 2y. And the last one is negative 3. And our last example today, this is the highest power. It would be a degree of 5. So negative 8x to the 5th power. Then we have a 4th, so plus 4x to the 4th power. Then we have a 2, so plus 5x to the 2nd power. And then we have negative 4. So again, that is what we call written in standard form, which is we write the polynomial with the highest degree and then descending down to its lowest degree. Now I'd like you to please do IXL lesson Z1 to a SMART score of 100 to show me that you understand the polynomial vocabulary. And I miss you guys a lot, and I wish I was doing this lesson face to face.